So welcome back to Newcastle Central. Got a few extra scenic items to go in. This will be for both the south and north side of the station. So in the last videos we were doing scenic work on this south side, doing some of the line side detailing. Got a whole bunch more from scale model scenery as well. So basically some drainage pits, and then also I got some safety railings to go around. Just got a DAP signal gantry. We'll see how this looks. I don't know, it was only 6 pounds, something like that. Just want to try and see, I get some kind of idea what kind of gantries I want for the signal, so I'll put that together and try that. But I'm also going to do the north side of the station, all the line side detailing down there as well. So let's get started and put these together and see how they all look. These are the scale model scenery catch pits. They're the ones. I've also got the bar type catch pits I'm going to make up next. But these are the regular catch pits coming together. They come on the laser cut card molds like this. These are the top pieces. These are the concrete bases. So painted these whilst they were on there, and then take them off very carefully, paint the edges, and then Sam did a very kind of grey concrete color on those. Instructions recommend paint these blue if you're looking in the picture. Kind of like the cabling that I had found. I couldn't really find orange instances, so I went with black. And these again, I can't really find blue instances, at least the time frame I'm looking at in the 80s. So I've gone for more of a dark metallic grey. I'll weather these up, add some rust as well. It should be fairly easy to put together now that they're painted, so I'll glue these up, weather them a little bit, and then see what they look like when they're finished. First set of those catch pits done. Not sure quite how well it's coming out on camera, but a little bit of weathering that I did around on the sides here, and then some rust on the top as well. So overall quite happy with how they came out. For the weathering, it was just Humbrol dark earth and then rust on top. So the dark earth is just to kind of take off that kind of light bright concrete coloring, and then the rust, again, I think that kind of makes it a little bit more realistic. Very uneven, no real pattern to how they're getting done. And I got a little bit better light. So overall, quite happy with how they turned out. So I'm going to go over and do the bar type catch pits next, and then I've got a little bit of a mix of what we can do. I've also then got the drainage manhole covers. So all told, we should have a pretty good combination of different ways that you'll be able to get the water off the side of the track. This is the bar type catch pits all finished up. Exact same process as I'd done before. Light grey for concrete, and then some of that dark earth weathering powder, the very dark grey tops, and then some of the rust weathering powder. These were a little bit more difficult. You can see some of the bars got a little bit webby trying to cut them out. I've got a new blade on the X-Acto knife, but I was still struggling with how fine the laser cut card was holding these in place. But I think overall look pretty good, and again it kind of gives them a bit more of an edge and weathered look. So I think this is pretty good. So now if we try and line up next to the other type of catch pits that I had, I think, you know, side by side, they look pretty good. Again, a good amount of weathering going on there. So now I'll try the manhole cover drains, and then we'll maybe put some of these on the layout and see how they all look once they're put together. Now the manhole cover's all done as well. I wasn't 100% how to paint these best, so what I went with was a very light coat of black acrylic, let that dry, then a very light coat of brown acrylic, let that dry, and then went over with kind of a copious amount of weathering powder. That rust weathering powder. I'm really glad I found those weathering powders, because I think overall, you know, it's worked out pretty good. These are a little heavy in some spots. But I think that overall these good. Certainly the manhole covers, I really like how these turned out, and I think some of that dark earth on the concrete, just to take some of the shine off the concrete, works out well. So that's now all 3 of those done. This is not at all some kind of a promotional video for scale model scenery, but it did work out pretty good. I did then have those safety railings to do as well. They had a pack, it's I don't know if they call it like lineside detailing intro pack or something. It was expensive, £15 maybe, something like that. I think it was like £15, and so that was for, you know, 9 of the catch pits, 9 of the bar catch pits. There's then you know, 10 of the rectangular and 2 of these circular concretes, and then that safety railing as well. And I think you get 500mm of that. Apologies if there's you can hear fireworks going off in the background. It's actually the 4th of July here, which is a big day for fireworks, so even though it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, people are already setting them off. So anyway, yeah, things like £15 for this lineside detailing kit. I wanted to try out all these anyway, because I've got quite a lot of scenic details, lineside scenic details that I want to do. I'll probably end up going back and getting more of these, but this is a really good sampler kit to put together. Very cool laser cut card. It was also the first time using rocket glue as well, which I really kind of wish I had when I had built up all of these platforms. But rocket glue is something I've seen a number of modelers use, and they had that for sale through Scale Model Scenery as well. So I picked up a little bottle of that. Really like the fine tip control on it as well, so we'll definitely be trying to get a little bit more of that. So let's put some of these on the layout on the south side of the station, where I've got some of the line side detailing, and see if we can make something that looks pretty good. So I'll kind of spread these out a bit along the south side of the station. Not 100% this is where they're going to stay, so these aren't glued down at all, and I also probably need to do a little bit more research as to exactly where these would be placed and why they would be placed in certain ways. You know, where would manhole covers be, for example, where would they be in relation to the actual drains themselves? What is the difference between the bar drain and just that regular catch drain? You know, are there specific ways that these would have been laid out? So I'll do a little bit more research on that. Also not sure if this is starting to get a little bit too busy, maybe, if there's a little bit too much going on. I'd said in the last video when I was doing this the south side line side station detailing that I'm trying to find the balance between what would have been pretty busy is pretty busy in real life, the prototype, but we're doing this on a much smaller scale in a model railway, and so I'm trying to figure out you know, how much I can put into a location without it just becoming too busy and becoming too distracting. Like I said, this is fairly busy, but it would be in real life. And again, I think once the ballast's down, I think right now everything's just kind of looking so grey because of the baseboard. But once the ballast's down, I think there is still going to be a lot of open space around here. And I've already kind of cut down on some of the additional ground point work that would have been in place, some of the additional signaling that would have been in place, the low-level ground signaling. I am still going to have the gantry to go in, the dapole gantry that I said, you know, it's going to come in somewhere like this, and there are then going to be some more signaling. And you know, Newcastle Central is a busy station, so we'll see. But yeah, these aren't glued down. I have them put some up in around the station as well. There's one in between the train there. And then here, as we're going between, I guess, platforms 4, 5, and 6, I've laid some in between, and then coming over on the north side of the station, I haven't put any of the other line side detailing in yet. You know, the cable trunking and the dummy point motors. I'm going to be working on those next, but I have also put in some of them. North side not quite as busy as the south side. I don't know if it will be. And actually, so this is kind of a good tell. When I look at this, I'm saying it's not quite as busy, and I don't think it is. I think this is probably you know, fairly good in terms of the number of drainage things that are in there. But we don't have that cable trunking, we don't have the relay boxes, we don't have the dummy point motors. So maybe that's what's throwing me on the south side. Maybe the drainage is correct and is probably okay. It's in once that additional line side detailing goes in. So Again, these aren't glued in, they're not set in stone, but I think overall they're looking pretty good. Quite happy with how they are. I just need to do a little bit more research, like I said, as to exactly when and where and how you would have the different types of drains lining up and manhole covers, things like that before I'll glue those down. So I'm going to go and do a little bit more work on some of the extra point motors and some of the cable trunking, so we can put that in on the north side of the station, and then all this line side detailing should be coming close to pretty much done. Okay, so north side of the station now is getting a bunch more detailing work put in place. Dummy point motors, same way I done on the south side of the station, and also cable trunking. A lot more cable trunking actually here than I was really expecting, so I haven't done over on the bridge. The dummy point motors are in place, but I don't have any trunking. I also don't have any relay boxes. I need to do more of the relay boxes. One thing I've noticed with looking at some other videos lately as I've been looking around is these Bachmann branch lines relay boxes, line side boxes are a little bit on the small side maybe. You know, I had said that in the first video that I thought the dummy point motors were a little bit big, but I think it's more because I was comparing them to the relay boxes. I think it's the relay boxes that are actually small. Now that I can see you know, the drain covers in place alongside with the point motors, those relay boxes really are looking quite small. So I don't have enough to cover all this north side anyway, but what I think I'm actually going to do now is kind of look around and see is there something else that I could be doing instead here. But point motors, we come in exactly the same that I had done on the south side. I did actually sand these down just a little bit, so they got a little bit of a smoother texture, and then the same thing, just light coat of grey, and then used various shades of darker grey just to pick out some of the accents for some of the extra metal work on it, some of the bolts that would be on there, and then a little bit of weathering on top, a little bit of rust colouring as well, where they would actually then be connected into the point work. So the same kind of all the way around, and then with the trunking, same thing, you know, sprayed with that, I think it's Tamiya medium grey, and then just a very light wash of a darker grey inside there as well, all the way around. So at least got this done. I need to do the actual cabling now. Yeah, again, exact same process as I had done on the south side of the station. Now just run some of the black wire out from the dummy point motors into the trunking, and then this should be starting to look pretty good. This is now the cabling in place for these dummy point motors on this north side of the station. It's one of those where I'm amazed at just how much it adds in about 5 minutes worth of work. So I haven't done those surface mount point motors. Run the trunking up to them. Haven't done anything on this middle one. Again, my plan is probably to try and do something in the middle here, just to try and make those a little bit more hidden. And so if you didn't see the previous video on the south side station, it's just 24 gauge black cabling, cut to length, and then just a dab, a little super glue on the back of the point motor just to kind of hold it in place. I really do think it makes quite the world of difference. So other than looking at some additional relay boxes, I've still got another couple here to put in place. I'm going to go ahead and glue those in. And then other than needing to confirm kind of placement of these drain catchment pits, I think this north side is largely done, other than needing a few more relay boxes, and then some more trunking to go over here on this, on what would be the height of the bridge. So I'm going to glue in these relay boxes, what relay boxes I do have, and then there's something else to go and look at on the south side. So with a little bit of sunshine streaming through late in the evening here, this is the dipole signal gantry kit. It's only about £5. I got this in from Hatton's when I was ordering in some of the lineside detailing stuff. Not 100% if I like it, but short of trying to scratch build something, I haven't seen a whole lot of other options. This dipole kit seems to be fairly well used. I wasn't really sold on the quality of it, but for $5, I guess you get what you pay for. But a lot of the plastic sprue pieces were a little bit warped and twisted, so I warmed them up in some warm water and tried to straighten them up as best I could, but not 100% on this, and so it's still a little bit skewed even when it's in place. So I just kind of very loosely put this together. I haven't really cleaned it up all that much. You can still see a little bit on the side there where I haven't really cleaned up the sprue. So I just kind of glued it together, gave it a quick spray with a primer and then with silver, just to kind of see how it would sit on the layout. So I haven't done anything on the back for what will be the back of the walkway. There are 3 plastic lights, dummy lights, that you would put in place. I think they're 3 aspect lights. My plan is that I'll be having some signal gantry. If it's this or not, I'm not 100% known, but I would have some signal gantry very similar to this. It'd be 2 aspect signals, but 1 for each of the lines. So let's talk a little bit about signaling at the end of this video here. One thing that I've been trying to figure out is exactly how I'm going to be controlling all of this. So if we take a step back, all of the home signals here, so this is the south side of the station. Really, each of these platforms would have a home signal for southbound trains. Just say, okay, now you are clear to go. You could then have some through trains that would come straight through, in which case they would then be controlled by those. So there is the possibility that these could be on automatic. So as you would have a southbound train on this middle line, if it was on green, as a southbound train would pass, would trigger that to red, you could then be on a timer. Or you could have both of these on green, saying, okay, anything can come through southbound. A freight bypass, or when we had a high-speed train bypass, could come through on this line, as that would trigger, then they would both flip over to red. So there's some amount of automation that I could do on these ones, and I would have at least 1 more, probably 2 more of these over on the north side. So 1 as you would be departing the station to the north, and then I would probably have another one on the high-level bridge, essentially southbound trains that would be coming in. The problem then is all of the platforms really can't be on automatic controls. They can in a way, so they get at least automatically switch to red based on the movement of trains that will be coming out here. But really all of the home signals, both on the south side and if we moved over on the north side, might be a little bit easier out with the sunshine. Basically at the end of the station and platform, you would have signals. And so that's like, okay, now you are clear to be able to move out. So in terms of a gantry, I would probably have another one around about here again, just to control access to the lines. As the food cans that were holding down the trunking when it was going. I would have another gantry probably somewhere here for southbound trains. But the home signals, I feel like, at the end of the platforms probably need to be manually controlled. So I've been looking at how you can set routes. Routes, depending on if you want the English or the American English pronunciation. And so I had looked at, when I was going to be doing the point work itself, was I going to do it manually control, was I going to go DCC, and if you went DCC, then there are options within some of the systems like the NC Power Cab or JMRI, which is what I actually have my NC hooked up to set routes. And the idea there is that you can say, okay, I've got a train here, and I wanted to be going northbound, so I would select this one, say northbound route, and so this point would then move over, this point would move over, this one would be okay, this one would come down, so it would be able to work its way out, and so it's able to fire 4 or 5 points, assuming you had a big enough capacitor discharge unit to be able to do 4 or 5 points at once, but this could get a little bit complicated. I decided just to manually set these. One, the cost of doing DCC for all these points. I think I've got 23 around here, but also just so I've got a little bit more operational interest. I'm manually through the control panel rather than having a hand of God, but manually I would have to set out the route, hope that I've got it right, otherwise you then short it out when a train goes through. But I think I would need to do something pretty similar when it comes to signaling, so a combination of manually setting a route and then some amount of automation on those gantry lights that are kind of the main in and out. So the idea would be, if we take this class 105, and he would have a light on the end of his platform around here. So we could have all of the northbound platforms that we're heading out, they would be on red. And so I would then manually say, okay, platform 0, the 105, I want to be able to go out, and so I would punch and say, okay, that light then turns green. I would have to manually set the points. The gantry that would come over here would then allow this northbound line to turn green, as the 105 would then move out of the station. This is where some kind of sensor around about where the gantry would be. Once it triggers that, the gantry light turns red, and also platform 0 light turns red, and that remains the gantry light. Once the train's cleared after a set time, then would cycle, probably start to green. I think 2 aspect signals is what was in use, but maybe it's 3 aspects, so it looks a little bit different, even though it might not have been prototypical. But at least the platform lights were just 2 aspect, those home lights were just 2 aspect. So I think that's the way I'm going to go. I've been looking at a couple of different ways that I could either manually do it. One thought that I've got at the moment is I do somewhat have enough space here on the panel so that I could have just a push button somewhere around, next to where the platform name is, and then depending on what side would indicate if the train's going to go north or it's going to go south. Some of these, these can only go southbound trains. These are only going to be northbound going out, I guess. There's only one way in and out of those platforms, I guess is the way to look at it. But things like platforms 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, and 8, you could have trains either direction. So again, if I hit on this side of platform 8, that would then make the light green going that direction. If I then said platform 7, so actually that's probably the way I would do it. If you had a southbound train who would come into 8, we're having a northbound train who would probably move up to 7. He probably wouldn't stop here to go north or here if he was going south. So I'd just manually have a push button that would then trigger the home lights at the end of the platforms to then turn green, as the train would then move around and come under right around where the signal gantry would be. That would then flip those home lights on the platform to red, and this would then be able to cycle through. The idea being that if you then release the train and it's then just going to be going around on a loop, as it would then come back through the platform, you would then end up, okay, I've got a green light. As it passes through, it would then cycle through, and depending on what platform I've cleared, if I wanted to, I could then hit that and say, okay, part of the reason why I'm looking at GMRI is that for those loops I could then say, okay, I wanted to turn, I wanted to go red, but then if I am just doing a loop, I want to be able to set a loop. So let's pick this line here. This would be probably one of the main south lines, and so we'd have a signal here. If I'm sending him south, I want this to be automated on a timer, but then this is also then going to be automated as well. Essentially, once he comes around for his first pass and hits that, then this would cycle, this would cycle. That's where it kind of starts to get a little bit more complicated. Or I could just, manually override that to green, but again, I need somewhere to be able to control that. So I've got a little bit more thinking to do. It's kind of a long-winded way of saying, that I'm not sure if this signal gantry is going to stay for now. It's kind of the best that I could find. I think it'll be okay if I clean it up a little bit more and then weather it, you know, start to put on the actual cabling or, you know, some kind of barrier on the back there. I think this will look pretty good, you know, once I put in some actual real lights. But that's what I'm thinking on signaling anyway. I would love to hear people's opinion on this, because this is one that there's a lot of time involved in doing this, and a lot of cost involved as well to actually buy the parts. It's one of the reasons why I'm trying to avoid doing fully automated solutions, because Heathcote boards and things like that, they add up very, very quickly. And so I will probably have them just on the lines that would run around. Right now, where I'm in around the station, I don't think I'm going to do many. I feel like this is going to be manually controlled, but you know, please do let me know what you've come up with yourself, or what you're planning yourself, if you're kind of at the same stage here. Yeah, so one last thing before we go, because I realized I've done a whole bunch of stuff on the line side detailing and signaling. But if you're following along with the channel, you know, you may well have noticed that the back drops look a little bit different. I kind of hinted on this when I had the video introducing the Class 108 that I got, but I do now have backboards, at least from about here, running around the main part of the station, all over there, and coming to the edge of where the bridge would start. I also then covered the walls as well, just so that it didn't look quite as bad. So now when you look at it, again, it's been a fun couple of weeks now that I've had time to actually work on this, to come out, clean things up, just in general, clean up the shed, do a whole bunch of the line side detailing like we've covered in these last two videos, get these backboards done rather, and really does clean it up a lot. So really wasn't anything special. That's why I didn't do a video on these, because it wasn't, I didn't think there was all that much to it. It's thin, I don't know, I can't remember what it is, 3/8 inch plywood maybe, that I had cut down to 15 inches tall. Because I'm not going to be accessing from the back, and because there's probably no reason for me to be needing to detach these, all I've done is very, very lightly pin these in. So you can kind of see some of the pinholes. Hopefully it's not too super obvious. I don't know if I'm going to be doing some kind of backdrop again. I think I said on the 108 video, it would be cool to do some kind of digital image wrapped around here. But a lot of the kind of off-the-shelf ones that I found, I don't know would fit, because this is very specific to Newcastle. I don't know if I can find any imagery now behind a resolution that I can print out that could wrap this either. So what I may end up doing is going to be, you know, the low relief buildings will probably be running along the back side. I've then got the you know, a little bit of cityscape, and then the castle itself over here would be coming into the bridge, which I'm not entirely modeling, but I'm not quite sure how else to present this. So at least for the moment, it's just painted in a sky blue color. I don't know if I would end up adding some clouds or something like that, but at least for now there is this backdrop in place, and I think it does overall start to make quite a difference. This video has been a little bit of a mixed bag in terms of the things that we've been looking over. We went over a whole bunch of the scale scenes, different drain kits. We went over the north side of the station, line side detailing for all the trunking, the point motors, relay boxes, cabling, that kind of stuff. We looked at the signal gantry. We looked at ideas for signaling, but just in general, you know, the line side of the station now is starting to really come alive. I hope some of these running shots have started to add a little bit more life and variety as well. So thanks for following along. Do let me know what you think of how things are progressing, any ideas and thoughts you have on signaling as well. I know there's a whole bunch of different solutions that are out there that can control signaling, so let me know what you suggest so I can go in, research a little bit more. I've got plenty of time before I'm going to be looking at buying these. It's going to be at least a couple of months out probably before I go out and get those. Yeah, let me know what you think. Please subscribe and follow along if you're not already, and we'll be back soon, where I think, if you caught a little bit of a sneak peek earlier, where I think what we're probably going to be doing is starting on the ballasting. Okay, bye.